My landlord stopped answering my messages 3 days before I moved out. I had paid 2 months' deposit up front. I had lived in that apartment for nearly a year. I kept the place clean. I never had a single complaint. And when it was time to leave, silence. No deposit, no explanation, no way to fight it. And the worst part? When I looked back at everything, I realized I had made the mistakes. Not intentionally, not carelessly. I just didn't know the rules of renting in Vietnam as a foreigner. So if you are planning to rent an apartment in Vietnam, whether it's Hanoi, Ho Chi Minh City, Da Nang, or anywhere else, watch this entire video before you sign anything or hand over a single dollar. These 7 mistakes cost me my deposit. They don't have to cost you yours. Renting in Vietnam as a foreigner feels easy at first. Prices are low, apartments are modern, and landlords seem friendly. You find a place on Facebook, you meet the landlord, everything looks fine, and you hand over the money. But here is what most people don't realize until it's too late. Foreigners have very limited legal protection when it comes to rental disputes in Vietnam. You can't own property here. Your name may not even be on a legal lease. And if something goes wrong, most expats just walk away. And landlords know that. Deposits in Vietnam are typically 1 to 2 months' rent. In Ho Chi Minh City or Hanoi, that can easily be $500 to over $1,000. Real money. The good news is that every single mistake on this list is completely avoidable, if you know about them before you sign. Let's get into it. This is the most common mistake, and it sets up every other problem on this list. In Vietnam, a lot of rentals, especially short-term ones, or those found through Facebook groups and Zillow, are done on a handshake. The landlord seems trustworthy. The apartment looks great. And a contract feels awkward to ask for. Don't skip it. Without a written contract, you have no legal record of what was agreed. No move-in date. No deposit amount. No rules about repairs. No checkout process. Nothing. But here's where it gets worse for foreigners specifically. Many contracts in Vietnam are written entirely in Vietnamese. You sign it because you want the apartment, and you assume the agent summarized it correctly. What you don't know is that buried in that contract, there may be clauses that allow the landlord to keep your full deposit for almost any reason. Late rent, noise complaints, having a guest stay over, or even just property damage with no definition of what that means. The fix is simple but non-negotiable. Always get a bilingual contract, Vietnamese and English. Make sure it clearly states the deposit amount, the conditions for returning it, who is responsible for repairs, the notice period for leaving, and the penalty for early termination. If the landlord refuses to provide a written contract or refuses to have it translated, that is your answer. Walk away. Most people who lose their deposit lost it on paper, long before anything actually went wrong in the apartment. You move in, the apartment looks clean, everything seems fine, so you don't document anything. 3 months later, the landlord says the sofa was damaged, or the air conditioner has a scratch, or there's a mark on the wall that was absolutely there before you arrived. Without documentation, you cannot prove otherwise. This is one of the most common ways deposits disappear in Vietnam, not through dramatic scams, but through pre-existing damage that quietly becomes your responsibility the moment you fail to record it. Here's what you need to do on move-in day. Walk through the entire apartment with your phone and record a video. Don't rush it. Open every cabinet. Test every appliance. Check walls, floors, furniture, and fixtures. Make sure the video shows the date. Then send it to your landlord by WhatsApp, Zillow, or email, so there is a timestamp and a record that they received it. If the apartment comes with an inventory list of furniture and appliances, go through each item on that list physically. If something is missing or damaged, write it down and ask the landlord to sign it. This 20-minute process on day 1 can save you months of stress and hundreds of dollars at the end. Most travelers don't do this because they feel uncomfortable, like they're being suspicious of a nice landlord. But professional landlords expect it. And if a landlord seems offended that you want to document the condition of what you're paying for, pay attention to that reaction. This one surprises a lot of people because it doesn't sound like a deposit issue until checkout day. So, here's how electricity billing works in Vietnam. The government sets an official rate, currently around 2,000 to 3,500 Vietnamese dong per kilowatt hour, depending on usage. But landlords are legally allowed to charge tenants above that rate. Some landlords charge double, some charge triple. Some charge a flat monthly fee that sounds fine until you realize it's calculated at a rate 4 times what the city charges. Now, this is not technically illegal, but it is often misleading, and honestly, it can create serious disputes at the end of your lease, especially if the landlord claims you owe extra utility payments and threatens to hold your deposit until you pay. Before you sign anything, ask specifically, what is the electricity rate per kilowatt hour? What is the water rate? Are these included in the rent or billed separately? Ask to see a recent utility bill from the previous tenant if possible, and get the agreed rates written into your contract. Also, take a photo of every utility meter on move-in day with the date visible. Electric meter, water meter, gas if applicable. This gives you a verified starting point so there's no argument about what you used. Utility overcharging is one of the quietest and most consistent complaints among foreign renters in Vietnam. It rarely makes headlines, but it shows up in every expat forum, every Facebook group, and almost every I lost my deposit story you'll find online. Don't let it be yours. A deposit in Vietnam typically equals 1 month's rent. In some cases, usually for furnished apartments or higher-end properties, 2 months is standard. If a landlord asks for 3 months deposit up front, that is a red flag. But here's the confusion that catches a lot of renters off guard. The difference between a deposit and advance rent. Some landlords ask for first month's rent plus a deposit. Others ask for 2 months up front and call one of them a deposit. These are not the same thing, and how they're labeled in your contract determines whether you can get that money back. Advance rent is rent you've prepaid. It doesn't come back. A deposit is a security fund that should be returned at checkout minus any legitimate deductions. Make sure your contract clearly separates these two amounts. If both are labeled as deposit, you may find yourself fighting to recover money that the landlord considers already spent. Also, negotiate the return timeline. In Vietnam, deposits are often returned within 7 to 30 days after checkout. Get a specific number in writing. Without it, I'll transfer it soon can stretch into months. Or never. Plans change, jobs end, visas run out, health issues happen, travel plans shift. Most people who rent a 12-month apartment in Vietnam don't end up staying the full 12 months. And if your contract doesn't have a fair early termination clause, leaving early could mean losing your entire deposit automatically. Many standard rental contracts in Vietnam include a clause that says, if the tenant leaves before the lease ends, the deposit is forfeited. No exceptions. No partial refund. You signed it. It's legal. The fix is to negotiate this clause before you sign. Ask for a notice period option, typically 30 or 60 days written notice, that allows you to exit the lease early without losing your full deposit. Some landlords will agree to a partial deduction, such as 1 or 2 weeks' rent, as a penalty for early exit. That is far more reasonable than losing 2 full months up front. This is also where having an agent you trust can help. A good local agent will negotiate these terms on your behalf and knows what is standard in the local market. But here's the important thing. If the early termination clause isn't in writing, it doesn't exist. A verbal agreement from your landlord means nothing at checkout. The air conditioner stops working in the middle of August in Vietnam. You know how hot that is. You message the landlord. They say it's normal wear, you must have done something wrong, and repairs are your responsibility. You disagree. You have no contract clause to point to. You pay for the repair to keep the peace, and it quietly comes out of your own pocket. This scenario happens constantly, and it almost always leads to bigger disputes at checkout, where the landlord claims the appliances weren't properly maintained. Before you sign, make sure your contract specifies who pays for what. Standard practice in Vietnam is that the landlord covers structural repairs and major appliance failures, air conditioning units, water heaters, refrigerators. The tenant covers minor items and things damaged through misuse. But standard practice means nothing without a written clause. Also, never pay for a repair without getting a receipt, and always notify your landlord in writing, through Zalo or email, before calling a technician. This creates a paper trail that protects you both during the tenancy and at checkout. If a landlord says, "Don't worry, just call me if something breaks," that sounds friendly, write it down anyway. Most foreigners who lose their deposit in Vietnam do the same thing. They complain on Facebook, they get frustrated, and then they leave. Landlords know this. It's built into the calculation. But there are things you can do, if you know about them before the situation escalates. First, never move out without doing a formal checkout walkthrough with your landlord present. Walk through the apartment together, compare the condition to your move-in video, and agree in writing on what, if anything, will be deducted. Get it signed. Second, if a dispute arises, stay calm and professional in all communication. Keep everything in writing. Do not delete any messages. Screenshots of Zalo and WhatsApp conversations are considered valid evidence. Third, involve your real estate agent if you used one. A good agent has a professional reputation to protect and often has direct leverage with the landlord that you don't have as a foreigner. Fourth, if the amount is significant and you're willing to pursue it, Vietnam does have local ward-level authorities, called the People's Committee, who can mediate landlord-tenant disputes. It takes time. It requires someone who speaks Vietnamese, but it is an option that many foreigners don't know exists. And sometimes, just the mention that you know this option exists is enough to change the conversation. Renting in Vietnam as a foreigner can be an incredible experience. The apartments are beautiful, the prices are fair, the lifestyle is hard to beat, but going in without the right knowledge is how you end up losing real money to problems that were completely preventable. So let me leave you with the 3 most important things to remember from this video. Number 1, get everything in writing. Contract, inventory, utility rates, repair responsibilities, deposit return timeline. If it's not written down, it doesn't exist. Number 2, document everything on move-in day. A 20-minute video walkthrough can save you hundreds of dollars at checkout. Number 3, the landlord matters more than the apartment. A bad landlord in a perfect apartment is a bad deal. Take time to ask around, check reviews, and trust your instincts in those first conversations. Vietnam is an amazing place to live. Thousands of expats rent here without problems every single year. The ones who have the smoothest experiences aren't the luckiest. They're the most prepared. Now you're prepared too. If this video helped you, consider sharing it with someone planning a move to Vietnam. It might just save their deposit.